In the heart of a sprawling desert, where the sand shimmered like molten gold and the wind sang in low howls, stood a single, crooked tree. It was not beautiful. Its bark was cracked, its leaves were sparse, and its branches twisted as if in pain. Every traveler who passed by looked at it with confusion or pity. They called it the wishing tree, not because it granted wishes, but because it looked like it wished to be anything else. At the edge of the desert lived a tortoise named Mara. She was old, with a shell scratched by time and eyes that saw more than most. Every week, she made the long journey to the tree, dragging her slow body across the dunes. She would sit beneath its shade, sipping water from a small canteen strapped to her shell, whispering to the tree as if it were an old friend. Other animals saw her and shook their heads. Why speak to a dying tree when the oasis was just beyond the dunes? But Mara ignored them. One day, a young jackal named Kiro approached her. He was fast, clever, and full of questions. He had heard stories of the strange tortoise who talked to the broken tree and wanted to know why. He found her resting beneath its shadow, her eyes half closed. The heat shimmered around them. "Why this tree?" he asked. "There are better ones. Greener. Taller. This one looks like it gave up." Mara opened one eye. "It's the only one that stayed." Kiro tilted his head. "What do you mean?" "This tree," Mara said, "has seen more sandstorms than any of us. The wind tried to rip it from the ground, the sun tried to dry it into dust, and still it held on. It didn't grow tall or lush, but it stayed." Kiro looked up at the gnarled branches. "But it's barely alive." "And yet," Mara replied, "it offers shade to the weary. Just enough for one traveler. It gives shelter to birds passing through. And its roots still drink from the deep earth. Isn't that enough?" Kiro was quiet for a while. Then he said, "But don't you wish it were more? That it looked like the trees in the oasis?" Mara smiled. "I don't wish it were different. I admire it for being what it is." Kiro visited Mara again the next week, and the week after that. Soon he brought water from the oasis and poured it at the tree's base. He picked away the thorns that tried to crawl up its trunk. Slowly, the tree began to change. It didn't become tall or lush, but its bark softened, its leaves grew brighter, and a small bird built a nest in its highest branch. Other animals began to stop by. Not for the tree's beauty, but for its story. They learned of its endurance, of how it had survived when everything else gave way. It became a symbol, not of perfection, but of resilience. Years passed. Mara grew older and slower. One day she made her last journey to the tree and sat beneath its shade, her canteen half full. Kiro sat beside her, now older himself, his muzzle gray at the edges. "Do you think it knows we cared?" he asked softly. Mara smiled. "Trees know things. Not with their eyes, but with their roots. It felt the water. It felt your kindness. And it gave back what it could." When Mara passed, the animals buried her beneath the tree she had loved. Kiro carved a small mark into the trunk, for Mara, who saw strength where others saw failure. The tree remained, scarred and crooked, but firm. Travelers came from far away to see the wishing tree, to rest in its shade, and to hear the story of the tortoise who believed in something others overlooked. The lesson is this: strength is not always loud, and greatness is not always beautiful. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is keep standing, keep giving, and keep believing, even when no one else sees your worth.